Hey, do you hate objections? Me too. We all hate objections. So the question is, what do we do with them when we get them? So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you yet another way to overcome objections that your prospects might give to you. And if this is the first time we are meeting, I'm Edita Mockute. If you want to learn my surname, go ahead, Mockute. It's Lithuanian surname. And I'm from VIE now, and I love network marketing, except I absolutely hate prospecting and everything that involves, or most of that it involves, like chasing people, and actually dealing with objections as well, especially with the ones that are not quite fair. But in today's video, I would like to talk about how to overcome objections, because one way or another, whether you are using prospecting or attraction, we do still need to deal with objections to some degree. Only the type of objections usually is different, and how you deal with them might be different as well, especially if you learn certain skills. And by the way, if you would like to grab my 3-step formula to recruit new team members without having to prospect and deal with any awkward situations, you can find it at viesnow.com/3 steps, and the link is in the description of this video. And back to the objections. So I know that it's frustrating. I know that most people get confused when they hear objections, but very often it's just a matter of some skills. It's just a matter of understanding the logic behind your objection and knowing how to respond to your prospect's thinking, to what actually your prospect is communicating. And when we say don't take it personally, it's very easy to say it, but we do take it personally unless you understand the logic behind. That's what really helps you to not take objections personally, because most objections are really not against you. It's just your prospect's defense mechanism working against something that they are not sure about. There's so much scam everywhere, and people are just careful and actually suspicious, and there are reasons for that. So anyway, so I talked about a few ways to deal with objections before, and this is yet another way. And by the way, you can actually use these processes if you want to find my other videos. You can use these different ways in combination. You don't have to just stick to one specific way at any point of time. They work the best when they are used in combination. And today I want to give you a way that actually kind of takes your prospects through some sort of steps to actually overcome that objection by themselves in their own head. And that is powerful, because when people understand something by themselves, something clicks for them, they actually stick to it. It's the best way for them to know, to understand the logic of what is being talked to. So this way to deal with objections is actually asking a question back. If they ask you a question, you ask the question back. You answer that question with a question. So for example, if somebody says, so how much money are you making? And you can say something like that. Instead of getting confused, instead of coming up with examples, you can say things like, well, John, are you under the impression that if I give you my number, that might mean that that's what you're gonna make too? And if it's an intelligent, smart person, he will say, well, no. Well, then you can say something like that, something like this. Well, then, do you agree that in any job, in any business, in anything you do at all, success depends on how much effort you put into it. And they will say, of course, yes, sure. So, do you agree that your question about how much I'm making is completely irrelevant to what you might make in this? Right? And yeah, and at that point they will probably understand that their question is actually irrelevant. It doesn't apply, which is true, which is usually not about, it's not even about that they really want to know. In some cases they might, but it's definitely irrelevant, and you help them to understand that. But also a lot of objections are designed to take your power away, to put you in the place where you might feel confused, weak, if they are not really interested, if they're not really willing to do this business, or for whatever reason, or not now, whatever, people come up with all sorts of excuses, and people are very, very creative usually. Or here's another example. This common objection. Is this a pyramid scheme? And instead of trying to explain, and this works very well. I tried it myself a few times years ago now. Instead of saying, "Oh, look, no, not really," you could try to explain something, the logic behind the pyramid scheme, the logic behind network marketing, and so on and so forth. Instead, you can say, well, I'm not sure I understand your question. What do you think? What do you mean by pyramid scheme? And then they will go on to explaining it. And the thing is, with this specific objection, people usually are not even able to explain it. They don't know. They don't really know. And they might say something like, well, when those people at the top, they are making off the team, below them. And you can say something, well, why do you have such an understanding? Where does it come from? Why do you think that's the case? Because you and I know that it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes people in the lower levels, make more money. It's all based on the effort, and so on. And they might come up with something else, with some other answer, and you can continue with your questions, to the point when they just agree with what you're saying. They come to this understanding, clarity for themselves, by themselves. And any decision, any clarity, any clicks are the most powerful, the strongest, when people come up with them by themselves, including buying decisions. And people, when they come up with something by themselves, they even defend it. They do everything to stick with their decision, with their conclusion, and so on. So use these, if you want to have a look at the other ways that I talked about in the previous weeks. You can use these methods in combination, or you can try and practice one method at a time, and see how it goes. And it's just a matter of practice. But keep your posture. I will always be repeating, keep your posture. There's absolutely no need to get confused, to feel little, to feel weak. I mean, if you're sure about what you are doing, if you know that you're doing a good thing, if your product, if you believe in your product, if you believe in your opportunity, there's absolutely no reason for you to be confused when somebody gives you an objection. Their objections are their own problems. If you can help them, if it's if it's a good person, if you can help them, we'll help them. But other than that, there's absolutely no need to get upset or anything like that. So anyway, so I hope this was useful to you. I want you to try and use these methods because they really help, and it helps to know that there are specific methods, and it helps to know what you can say and what you can use. So thanks very much for watching, and do grab my 3-step formula to recruit new team members without having to prospect, feel awkward, and without having to deal with objections like pyramid scheme, because you will be attracting people to you, so there's very little room for any rejection at all. So anyway, thanks again, have a nice day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.